Okay, so about what age were you when the civil rights movement was occurring?
Civil rights movement was occurring, even though it was going on before my birth.
Okay.
So I was born into the civil rights movements occurring.
Where were you living?
I was living in a small town south of Texas by the name of Ballinger.
How do you spell that?
Ballinger.
Was everything tense? Like,
Tense.
yeah.
Yes, everything was tense because there was a lot of racism going on at the time. There was no such thing as the blacks and the whites living together or schooling together. Uh, we went to an all-black school, and the whites went to an all-white school.
Did anyone white teach you, or was it only blacks you taught?
When I was going to the all-black school, they were all black teachers because we were still segregated at the time. And then one day when I was about, I'd say I might have just turned about 7, 8 years old. Then they came out and they said, there is no more segregation.
So that was when they announced that it was over.
That's when the law was passed, there will be no more segregation, that blacks and whites would go to school together. And then we had to walk because at that time not many blacks had cars. And the schools they sent us to were the white schools because the black schools were very poor. So they sent all the blacks up to the white schools. And that was like about 3 to 4 miles away, for which all black children had to walk that far just to go to school.
Did they have buses for the privileged white kids?
Oh yeah, they had buses in their neighborhoods.
What about
they would get on the bus and go right to school.
What about the black kids who had money and everything? Did they
In this particular small town, there wasn't blacks with money. In fact, when this took place, we had just changed over from being segregated to non-segregated. And so while we were segregated, there were no blacks with money. All blacks either washed clothes for their white counterparts, or they cut yards, or they cleaned up as janitors, but they did not have good paying jobs. So there was no well-to-do blacks in this town. So we all got together since we all had to go to the same place, and we'd walk to school. That wasn't so bad as long as it was the summer and the weather was nice. But when there's snow on the ground, you've got to walk 4 miles to school. So we get out, we start walking. We're cold, we're frozen by the time we get to school. So quite naturally, first thing you want to do is you want to go stand by the heater. So we're standing by the heater and the teacher's going on with the class. So we're falling behind. So it's like our white counterparts, they rode to school in cars. They had breakfast that morning. They were ready to attend and learn as soon as they got there. We had to walk 4 miles. And we were more concerned with unthawing and getting some fillings back in our fingers so we can sit down. And so kind of like lagged behind. And so it was pretty bad.
Did you get harsher punishments for like not participating in class as opposed to the other kids, the white kids?
Yeah, we were treated. Actually, we were treated as if we were not intelligent enough to compete in the classes that we were in. Assignments are given, and our white counterparts, they were able to pick up on it. They've done this all their lives. Here we are in a new situation, and the teachers really did not want to put in the time and effort to really help us understand what was going on. They were more interested in, okay, you're in the class, this is the way I run my class, let's move on. I don't have all day. But for a change like that, you've got to take time out to help the other people understand what's going on, and that wasn't done. And then when things weren't done, you'd see most all blacks were in the office every day. Because the first thing was when we went to this school and we got there, the whites weren't used to having us in their school. We weren't used to being in their school. So the N-word, I don't think you want to put it on there, the N-word was used regularly. That's all that they would know our name. But the N-word is what they were called. Fights broke out. Kids were expelled, mostly the black kids, sent to the office. And while you're sitting in the office, you're missing out in class. And not only that, during my time, corporal punishment was allowed. So you got paddled. So most of the black kids were in the office getting paddled instead of being in class, getting an education.
Did you ever participate in any of the marches back then?
No, I didn't participate in any of the marches. We had little things where we would not go to class in order to get our point across about something that was going on. We just skipped school, and all of a sudden, they're wondering, well, where's all my black kids at? Well, we decided we wasn't going because something was unjust, and there was no one there that was actually speaking up for us. We were on our own.
What were your parents doing then? Like, where were they working?
Well, my parents, my father, my mother had passed away when I was 6 years old. My dad, I really didn't know where he was. So my grandmother raised me, which was a lot of something like that was going on during the time, simply because you have to understand where I came up was slavery had only been abolished maybe about 5 years before I was born. So my parents pretty much were slaves. Well, my grandmother, my parents, slaves. I mean, they worked, made little or no money. We didn't live in the best of houses. We had none of the luxuries. There was no TV. Couldn't afford a TV. No cars. No extra money. Clothes got passed down from one child to the other as long as they were still wearable. It wasn't like go out and get new clothes. Christmas, there was hardly anything called Christmas. I mean, times was too hard. And we had just passed through, like I say, slavery had just recently been abolished. And some of the tales that they would tell about slavery was really break your heart. First, it anger you. because you get angry thinking that why would somebody treat somebody like that? Why would they do that? And they haven't gotten to know you. It's all the color of your skin. And so first anger takes over. Then after the anger takes over, then you feel sad for the things that have happened. Because I'm talking about such things as people in white robes come into your house in the middle of the night, drag your uncle out of bed and take him outside and hang him in front of you. And there was nothing you could do except watch. Because if you attempted to help him, then you would also be killed too. So slavery was just coming around, and it was an ugly thing. And so when we started going to the white schools, it was very hard because the kids are prodigies of their parents. The parents thought that way, that blacks were subpar, they weren't intelligent, they were all thieves. They thought things like this. And so these things was passed down to their children. And so this is the way their children's acted out when we had to go and start going to their school. They did not like it. It took a long time just to settle things down.
Do you think that the civil rights movement made you the person that you are now? Do you think that the movement made you the person that you are now?
I very much believe that what I went through made me the person that I am now, because I had to go through that embarrassment. I had to go through that hurt. I had to try to better myself in the face of all of it. And then to actually look at myself now, and I'm not saying that I'm well off, but I am very much blessed. But what I went through back then made me a different person. Give you an example. I had to grow up past that anger, because whether society don't really understand that, and I know it's been many years since then, and we should have evolved from what we used to be, but there's an anger. There was an anger inside of the black race because of the way we were treated, the way that people saw us, and even today, it is not free. It is still out there, but it's a little bit more concealed now. But the thing that made me the person that I am, that my turning point, and I will never forget that. I had an English teacher, and I was the class clown. So I made everybody laugh because I didn't want to do the work. Kind of like you do. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. But I was the class clown, and she would always get on me and say, stop playing. She'd tell me, she said, you could do this work if you would apply yourself. So what she did is she took my desk, put it right up front next to her desk. So when I put it there, I turned it facing the class. She said, no, you turned it facing the board, so I can't see anybody behind me. And I'd sit there, and she'd do her lectures and everything. And every time I'd turn around to make a joke, she'd take a ruler and pop me on the hand. But it got my attention. And the thing of it is this was a white teacher. Her name was Mrs. Charles Hammer. Her husband owned a jewelry store in this little town. Out of all the teachers in the school, out of all the people in the school, not many white teachers reached out to the kids. They just did what they had to do and let them go. But she took a special interest in me, and she made me learn. So I ended up doing very well in English lit, all of this stuff. And that's where I kind of picked up a lot of my education that made me become more interested in education, to make me want to accomplish certain things. Like when went to school. Uh, my majors and things was English. You know, just all kind of things that had to do with English. Simply because this white lady, during a time of racial injustice, put all racism aside and looked at me as just a child that needed help, that she knew could do the work, but had come through some bad circumstances. So a little love and care, a little tenderness and attention